Whew. Well said.
Sorry
Well
about
said.
the sound there. No, we couldn't hear it, Abby.
I'm sorry.
We couldn't hear it. We're gonna have to play the video again. But
Okay. Oh, well, hello, everybody.
welcome. Sorry, it's
At
okay.
home.
We have while we're speaking or whatever. Let's introduce this third person you're seeing here. This is Stephen Cole, a new addition to our team. Welcome.
Thank you.
Stephen, where do you live? Where are you right now?
I'm in Eugene, Oregon.
Oregon.
Yep.
So
Okay. I'm gonna
Stephen's
try this again.
Stephen's been recently added as
Go
a
ahead.
bit.
Go ahead, Michael.
Stephen's a bit of a added temporary co-host for now. We'll see. Not sure exactly what's going on in the going forward, but we'll potentially keeping him on uh, going forward. But for now, we're happy to have him on, and we'll see what happens. Right?
Right on.
Yep, we'll see what happens. Oh, hi, Miss Janice Anderson. I think I've seen you here before. So welcome. Charlie Brown Politics, welcome. Hey, Stay Balanced. Good to see you in the comments section as well. So I'm going to go ahead and um, share this again because it's really important.
Yeah, I think we'll be happy to have the context to get started.
And for you guys back home, my internet is not the best today, so um, I'm just gonna have to get through it as best as I can. And here we go.
We assemble here together today with common problems, bringing together ethnic groups that maybe have not been together in this type of meeting in the past. I know I haven't been in a meeting like this, and it's been one of my dreams that we would come together and realize our common problems. And I do want to express my deep personal gratitude and the appreciation of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to each of you. And power for poor people will really mean having the ability, the togetherness, the assertiveness, and the aggressiveness to make the power structure of this nation say yes when they may be desirous of saying no. And it is my hope that we will get together and be together and really stand up to gain power for poor people, Black people, Mexican Americans, American Indians, Puerto Ricans, Appalachian whites, all working together to solve the problem of poverty. We're getting ready to deal with the economic issue. We're getting ready to demand jobs and income. We're tired of working full-time jobs for part-time income. All right. We are tired of living in run-down, dilapidated, rat-infested shacks and slums. We are tired of our children having to attend overcrowded, inferior schools. And we are tired of our men not being able to be men because they can't find work.
So many years gone by,
All
and
right.
it sounds like yesterday.
Right? Sounds like he could have said that speech today.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did have we have on the agenda to discuss labor, but I'm hearing Putin's interview is happening right now. So I'm like so torn.
Yeah, that's kind of bad luck for us with our timing. That nothing really we could have done about that. We could have maybe jumped on a little early or something, but it's no big deal or whatever. I'm sure that people can watch our stream later, right? If they choose to.
Mhm.
Yep. And Stephen, you got a special hey as our new host from Stay Balanced. So
Yeah, thank you.
welcome aboard. Yep. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, I didn't mean to hit that. I'm a little flustered today because of my internet problems. But I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again, and we could just dive right into it. But before I do that, I did want to just give a little update. I went on a field trip for our leadership students. We went to visit 2 more high schools. I saw a crawfish pond. I've never seen one of those. There's a school in Abbeville that has a crawfish pond, and they raise crawfish, pigs, and chickens, and they're about to open a salmon pond. So I thought that was extremely impressive. Um, and then we went to another school, Lafayette High, as well, and the students got an opportunity to, you know, see what's going on in their schools, compare, contrast, so they can voice their opinions about what they would like in their schools. And so that's why we're taking them around so they can see what kind of things are implemented at various schools, so they can go in and demand what they want at their own school. So I just wanted to speak on that for a minute. A little piece of the mutual aid that I do is not always about things that you hand out. It's also about education and learning new things. So,
Yeah.
okay. So here we're gonna move it along. Okay, Mom, you have to close the door, okay? Okay, close the door. My mom is interrupting my live stream.
It's okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to share my screen, and we will start there. See about what she needs, okay? So this is the UAW president. What's his name? Fain.
Sean,
He is speaking to Lawrence O'Donnell. He's speaking, Sean Fain. He's speaking to Lawrence O'Donnell. Now, remember, Lawrence O'Donnell is the guy who did that Nader documentary, and he told us out of his own mouth that if you want to push the Democratic Party to where you want them to be, you have to have the courage to not vote for them. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
wise words.
But Sean Fain evidently doesn't have much courage.
He's
Sean
got
Fain,
the
unfortunately, doesn't
ability
have much
to
courage.
act like he does. From what I was seeing, he was talking a big puffy talk about being standing up to the bosses and fighting for his workers or whatever. He was, but then he like totally folded or whatever. I don't understand what. I mean, it's just the same old story, really. So I guess I do, whatever. But I thought it for some reason I thought it would be different, right? They always get you sometimes.
Well, he was running against a socialist. I think his name is Will Lehman. So
okay, he was running against
Trotsky.
I guess. From Will Lehman, I was reading. His name was popping up when I would read from the WSWS newspaper. I don't so much have the time, I guess, these days to read those guys as much, but that's an interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, so I think Yes, I think that he learned a lot of his language of what he should be saying from Will Lehman. But
Well, what
ultimately,
happened there kind of makes
as
what
Charlie Brown states in the chat,
have been saying, what the Trotskyites have been saying about unions all this time or whatever, is really validated some of what they're saying. So if people have been criticizing the Trotskyites, I get why the Marxist-Leninists have a big beef with them or whatever, but they didn't look good when Midwestern Marx was supporting this UAW strike, and they've been a bit quiet about the failure. And they talked about it, right? But they haven't maybe talked about about what their thoughts are about their self-criticism of supporting the wrong choice after the fact. Now, hindsight 2020, kind of rambling, but.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So let me go ahead and share this so we can get into it. Slow, 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 slow. Hey, Mastermind. Mastermind has entered the chat. We appreciate you being here. And here we go.
Thank you, apparently, for bringing Donald Trump along as a viewer, because he's tracking, I guess, everything you say on TV. There you were on CBS on Sunday, and Donald Trump wrote this about that. He's on his Truth Social thing. He said, "I had the great privilege of watching Sean Fain, the president of the United Auto Workers, this morning on Deface the Nation. He is a real stiff." Stiff is in capital letters, so I guess he really means it. Who is selling the automobile industry right into the big, powerful hands of China. I assume you have no response to that.
Look, this is just Donald Trump and who Donald Trump is. He always resorts to name calling because at the end of the day, he doesn't want people to focus on facts. You know, during his presidency, we learned a new phrase. It was called alternative facts, which what we all call lies. But that's the world he operates under because he doesn't want people to see the reality of where he really stands. He serves the billionaire class, the corporate class. And so, you know, he doesn't want us to focus on facts, just as we did our contract campaign with the big three. You know.
Okay, so Sean Fain wants us to believe that Biden doesn't also serve corporate billionaire class, right? The guy who set the standard for credit card companies. We're supposed to believe that. The guy who wrote the bankruptcy bill.
Yeah.
The guy who is funneling billions of our tax dollars into the military industrial complex. That's the guy that doesn't serve corporate billionaire class. That's what I'm supposed to believe. What do y'all think?
It really doesn't help when people are talking about the alternative facts or whatever, as if they care about the truth a lot more than the person that they're lambasting or whatever. When they go and support someone like Biden or whatever, and then they have their own version of an alternative fact or whatever, it just makes it harder for people who really care about the truth to actually get people to believe that there is a truth out there, right? So sorry, Stephen, you got a comment?
Yeah, you know, it's really telling when MSNBC starts off with Sean Fain, and the first item on the discussion is dissing Trump. I mean, that's all they have to run on. Is just not Trump, not Trump. And you know what's Joe done the last 3+ years? Zip-po-dee-doo-dah. Therefore, that's all they have to run on. And it worked in 2020 because we didn't know what Joe's record would be, but it's not working now. You can't fool intelligent people twice in a row with the same tired BS.
Yeah, fool me once, fool me twice.
Yep. Zippity doo dah, zippity yay. My, oh my. What a crazy day. And it's funny that you said alternative facts, Michael, because he talks about that in here too. I'm like, okay, he's hitting all the little talking points. So let's see what else he has to say. about we're not Trump.
That's all they got.
Mm-hmm.
We put the facts out there. That's why 75% of America, sided with us in that fight, because those are the issues that matter to Americans, to the majority of Americans. It's better pay, better wages, healthcare security, retirement security, and just getting our time back, getting our lives back, not having to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, or multiple jobs just to scrape to get by. That's the economy Donald Trump dreams of.
Let me read you what Donald Trump said about you today. And this is
Okay. It's just, again, he continues to throw Donald Trump under the bus, but Biden won't support a rise in the minimum wage. Biden broke the rail strike. Obama and Biden broke up Occupy Wall Street. So why is this man running cover for Biden? Unless he's a puppeteer. I don't see any other explanation for it.
There isn't.
Ay.
Promises.
There's no way. There's no trusting him after this if anyone's been paying attention. So that's where
effort to undermine your relationship to the membership
I'm
of
sorry,
your
Michael,
union.
I'm
It's
trying
a
to
clear
pause you.
effort by Donald.
I'm sorry, Michael, go ahead.
That's where it's important. I heard you remember they were saying they're going to rescind, try and get him to rescind the endorsement. So I'd like to hear about what happens with that going forward.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to get to that. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Trump said about you today, and this is a clear effort to undermine your relationship to the membership of your union. It's a clear effort by Donald Trump to get the votes from members of your union by speaking to them this way. He says, Sean Fain, this is today, Sean Fain is a weapon of mass destruction on auto workers in the automobile manufacturing industry in the United States. Is he under contract to China? Now that is aimed directly at your membership to try to get their votes and to try to eventually get them to vote against you as their union president.
Yeah, look, the only weapon of mass destruction against the automobile industry in America and all industry in America is two words: corporate greed. And that's what Donald Trump's all about. I mean, this is the oldest tactic in the book. It's divide and conquer. This is what the billionaire class and the wealthy do masterfully. They want to divide the masses over race or what color your skin is, gender, who somebody loves, or even border security. We hear a lot about that recently. They want to put a villain out there. They want to create whatever boogeyman they can to make us fear somebody else, like they're going to take something or they're a threat to our being. They're not. The only threat to our being is what we've witnessed the last 40 years of our lives, where the rich gets richer, the poor get poorer, the working class continues to struggle to get by. That's the economy they love. This is about humanity. And the sad reality is the world Donald Trump wants, they want to talk about competition. They want us to compete with countries that pay poverty wages. And basically, they want a society of slavery. That's their ultimate goal. And we're not going to stand for that. So we're not going to let, our membership's smarter than that. They think working class people are stupid. They're not. Working class people get it. And when you put the facts in front of them, the facts are very clear about which candidate looks out for working class people and stands with workers, and which candidate has spent a lifetime serving himself. And that's Donald Trump.
Okay. Where do I start? When they reveal themselves, believe them. That's a famous quote from the late Maya Angelou. When they reveal themselves, believe them. Fain also thinks we're stupid.
Yeah,
He's
I was going to say.
He's stumbling just to get it out.
Yeah, they're co-opting our language for sure, right? He clearly knows. He's been listening to the socialist playbook, whatever. He knows exactly what to say, and he knows exactly where to steer it wrong, whatever. When he's blaming Trump, when he's corporate greed is the problem, and that's how Trump thinks, whatever. When not mentioning both together, whatever, is intentional. So yeah.
I love how I'm just going to play it really quickly. I love how he stumbled over the candidate. He had to ask himself, wait, which candidate? Which is the candidate? I think it's right here. Let's see.
Are stupid. They're not. Working class people get it. And when you put facts in front of them. The facts are very clear about which candidate looks out for working class people. And
Did you see that? Which candidate?
The
I don't know which candidate.
video's glitching for me, so I can't do the body language analysis. It's lagging for me.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, when he was saying which candidate, he like stumbled over his words as if, you know, he's trying to remember who he's talking about. Like, which candidate am I talking about? Because they both sound the same, really.
Yeah.
I mean, does Fain think we don't know that a Democrat got NAFTA passed? I mean, it was a Democrat that pushed TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. Trump actually rescinded TPP.
Yeah. These are like the little things I might not know as much, even though I should, wherever, because I'm Canadian, but NAFTA affects us too, right? So it's, but this stuff
sure
I tend
does.
to forget after a while. So I just maybe smoke too much weed. But
Yeah.
But then, you know, just because of
The thing is,
with Trump and the demonization of Trump, it's all they've got, and it kind of makes me, you know, I've written a book called Full Crazy Town, which examines how did we get here? How did we get to this polarized society? And it all started when Hillary lost to Trump. It just he broke the DNC's brains, and so it started with Russiagate, Laptopgate, COVIDgate, Deplorapalooza is what Keaton Weiss calls January, the insurrection. The proxy war, the genocide, the lies, the deception, the fear mongering, and what the Democrats do is it's projection. It's accusing the opposition of doing exactly what you're doing. They say, you know, Trump will destroy freedom and democracy. Well, Biden has destroyed freedom and democracy. You know, he'll be a dictator. And we have Biden, you know, just war after military aggression, after bombing campaign all around the Middle East and all around South America. And it's just out of control. The American people, in poll after poll, do not want eternal warfare. They want their tax money to go for health care, not warfare. You know, it's really simple. If we had health care, we'd have fewer homeless people, we'd have less mental problems, less addiction problems. We need health care, not warfare.
No, pie in the sky, man. Healthcare.
yeah,
I know.
yeah, because capitalism is going to do
countries have.
what.
Yeah.
What's wrong with us?
Good question.
Capitalism is going to do what it does, no matter who's in office.
Yeah. True.
No matter who's in office, capitalism will do what capitalism does. And all this stuff about being divisive, like, what is he talking about? Like Democrats aren't divisive. Nancy Pelosi is calling protesters Putin puppets.
Well, it's all they've
she
got.
She told that Asian lady that was.
Yeah.
She told that Asian lady who was protesting to. Yeah, she told that Asian lady that was protesting to go back to China, to her headquarters. I couldn't believe it.
Ridiculous. But it's all they've got.
Like, why? How is this possible?
They've got to say something, right? They've got to have some lame excuse. They know it's not true. They know they're not fooled by their own, although maybe they are. After, you know, you say something enough, you're trying to justify your existence. And you have to say something, you're right. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, we actually are trying to dominate the world and crush everybody else. They have to say something, and it sounds so lame. But the problem is that the shit libs have been terrorized mainly by the pandemic, because it destroyed so many lives, and it just wiped out incomes and destroyed mom and pop businesses as the Amazons and Walmarts all made billions. And I think it traumatized people. And my solution to this is not mine only. I was listening to Chris Hedges talk with Aaron Mate's dad, Gabor, who's a psychiatrist. And he said that the only way to heal the trauma, like we've been traumatized since all these lies, ever since Trump came on board, and especially with the pandemic, that people don't know what to think. They're looking for a savior to save them from the trauma. And Gabor Mate says that the best way, the only way to solve, to remedy for trauma is to reconnect with those from whom we've become estranged. Of course, a lifetime of psychotherapy, that wouldn't hurt, but it's that reconnection. And I know for a fact I lost friends and family members' trust in me, because if I dared to criticize Dr. Fauci or the Democrats, friends and family all came back with, well, I guess you must be a Trumpanista then, and so and they wouldn't listen to them. They wouldn't listen, and like all of a sudden the narrative, zoom, off, stolen. We're not talking about lies and deception or trauma or remedies. We're talking about Stephen as a Trumpanista now. I thought I knew you better. It's just, it's as bad as the excuses that Democrats make for what they're doing. Were people telling me that, like, hey, are you a QAnon? Are you a secret Putin puppet? What's going on here? And it's just so sad that
it's
so many people have been fooled.
It's like it's one cult over the other. Which cult are you going to belong to? Because you have to choose one.
Well,
okay, let's try to get.
That goes back to 10,000 years ago, when you had to be a member of a community for sustenance and protection, and if you got kicked out of the community, it was certain death. And so the Catholic Church kind of used that model. And if you weren't with the church, then you were excommunicated. And if you were excommunicated, you got kicked out of the village. You had to wander from village to village as a beggar, and the kids would throw rocks at you, and the dogs would nip at your heels. But if you got excommunicated, that was almost game over. But that's why everybody, we all want to be a part of the winning team, right? We all want to be, who's number one. It's just like the Super Bowl every day. So, tribalism, the cult, it is important, but what does your tribe stand for? I think that becomes a more pertinent issue than just, who you identify with, and like, my team's better than your team.
Yeah, I expect a lot of that. You're just a Trump puppet or whatever, or a Biden whatever puppet. I expect that from like the actual like operative type people, like online and stuff, like the people who are paid to mess things up or whatever. But then there are a lot of stupid people. I think maybe they're doing it just for practical joke, whatever. They enjoy calling you a Putin puppet or whatever. They get a laugh at it, and they're not focusing on the more serious, taking it more seriously, whatever.
No, it's not a joke. Really, Michael, my family, my own daughter and friends and family, they're traumatized. They actually, and like Matt Taibbi came off and said it to begin with. He said, Trump broke brains. But then he kind of like thought about it more, and he calls it the Trump derangement syndrome. And that's it. You know, they're just so fixed on, you know, Trump as the problem that they can't see that it's actually Biden and the Republicans are the problem. It's not just one dumbass con man, Trump.
Well, it's the typical scapegoating
But
mentality.
that's it.
Go ahead.
So that's kind of the concept that like Scientology uses, where like if you're not with us, we have to cut you off completely, and you're no longer part of the group. And so you just kind of go along to get along, because we're social creatures, and you don't want to lose your family and friends over a disagreement. You can agree to disagree, but no, that's not good enough. It has to be all or nothing.
Well, I think that's one of the signs of a cult.
It's a horrible tactic.
It's one of the warning signs of a cult, I might have.
Yep,
if you look at it.
exactly. So let's go ahead and just get through this.
Finish that video there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just real quick. It's almost over. Just get through it.
Stands with workers, and which candidate has spent a lifetime serving himself, and that's Donald Trump.
Are the facts enough, Sean, among the Trump voters who you know, and I know you talk to, I mean, I know Trump voters, I haven't found that the facts are very persuasive to them.
Well, I mean, you know, Trump lives in an alternate reality. I mean, let's be real. I mean, he's devoid of fact, because fact doesn't feed the narrative that he wants people to believe in. But I do believe, you know, when you look at our contract campaign, you look at our strike with the big three, there's a reason why 75% of American public side was in that fight. And those are the issues people care about. You know, people want their lives back. And so, you know, they want a decent wage, you know, and they want to be able to have a job where, have a secure retirement where they can someday have an end and actually enjoy their life. Our lives shouldn't revolve around work. And that's the society we live in this country now. Every minute of our day is structured around work. You know, both parents have to work in a 2-family home, or one, you know, if it's one parent, they're working multiple jobs, and that's not a life. And so I do believe when you look at the facts and look at the reality of where both candidates stand, that will resonate with people. But we have to talk about it. We have to keep the dialogue out there.
Joe Biden has announced, the campaign's announced he's coming to Michigan on Thursday. He's going to celebrate and emphasize that UAW endorsement. Is the UAW endorsement in a state where the election could be very close, possibly a decisive factor?
Sure, I believe it is. And, I believe our members will be overwhelmingly behind him. Look, you know, everything's not always perfect. But at the end of the day, when you look at the record of both of these candidates, it's very clear. I mean, Joe Biden stood, you know, the first time in our history, and the first time in this nation's history, a sitting U.S. president joined striking workers on a picket line. Donald Trump had the same opportunity in 2019 when GM was on strike for 40 days and he was president. What did he do? What did he say? Nothing. You know, President Biden worked with us, you know, to save community in Belvedere, Illinois. It was written off for dead. A plant was going to close. You know, their administration worked with us. We were able to get not just that plant saved, but get a second plant, a commitment for a second plant there. You know, Donald Trump, when he was president in 2019, faced the same situation in Lordstown, Ohio, and he did nothing. And he told those workers, don't sell your houses, and he did nothing but blame the local president at the time. You know, you go back into bankruptcy and back in the recession in 2008 and 9, Joe Biden stood with the American worker and worked for a path forward for us. You know, Donald Trump said, let them fail. And he blamed the workers, you know. So there's two very distinct people in this fight. You know, Joe Biden has a history. He bet on the American worker. Donald Trump blamed the American worker. And that's a very clear choice to me in where working class people should stand in this election.
President Sean Fain of the United Auto Workers, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
My goodness. Okay. So, Mr. Fain, no, working all day just to get by isn't a life. And yes, Mr. Fain, people want to retire and enjoy their lives. Biden wants to raise the retirement age, Mr. Fain. And that PR stunt and photo opportunity isn't going to change that. Biden broke a strike, Mr. Fain. So how are these words coming out of your mouth? It's like he's basically said that we are wage slaves, so why are we willing to sell people out like this? Okay, I just don't get it, because if Will Lehman, the socialist that ran against him, he wouldn't be talking like this. Like, he speaks like Lehman, but moves like a puppet. I'm just too outdone with him. And then you're insulting your constituents. There's a lot of Trump supporters in the UAW, and I don't know. Like, he's saying that all Trump supporters don't have any facts straight, but Biden supporters do. When all of us are being lied to, every last one of us.
He's setting up a black and white fallacy, from what I can tell there, with Trump stands for this and all black and bad or whatever, and Biden stands for this, all white and good. No, that's clearly not the reality.
And this is an age-old strategy. I mean, there's the Federalist Papers. There's a article about where somebody's talking to John Jay and saying all we got to do is divide the people into warring camps and make them fight each other while we skip all the way into our greatest dreams. And it goes back beyond that. I mean, there's European like secret societies, and a lot of them, not just the conspiracy theory ones, but there's like the Club of Rome, the Bohemian Society. I think they're actually in California, but there's all these people that have a world domination strategy of divide and conquer, as far as being able to skate all the way to power and more control and more money.
Yeah, I think what happened maybe with some of those secret societies, it's hard to tell when you even look into the history of it, because they're secret societies. You don't really know what we know properly and what we don't, or whatever. But I think many of those societies maybe were in competition with each other, and some of them maybe didn't start with the idea of world domination, but then they became infiltrated and subsumed into the grand master plan of evil. So
pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the allure, right? I mean, if I think it's John Mersheimer was talking about governments and societies, how they have to be as big and as strong and as powerful as they can. Otherwise, your neighbor is going to come in and kick your ass and take everything that you've got. And he says it's just logical. If once you have a society that has something to protect, like in the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East, once we went from hunting and gathering and just day by day existing to having a grain surplus, that surplus was worth money, because in times of famine or drought or war, or if you get besieged your castle and stuff, that it makes a difference between life and death. And he just thinks that it's the natural way of the world, that you got to be as strong as you can, otherwise somebody's going to kick your ass.
Well, I definitely wouldn't say it's the natural way of the world. I think maybe to give a little bit of a devil's advocate.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
Well, that's John Mersheimer. I'm quoting him.
Yeah. But I would say, like, it might be kind of a little bit sort of natural for the time, the age that we've been in, or whatever. Like, with the development of empires from Sumerian times, there's been all this like history kind of conditioning us to behave in a certain way, and so normal is kind of what is what society accepts to be normal. And so what we have deemed normal is this nations murdering each other kind of thing. So
Mhm.
until we progress to a new form of normal, it's difficult to you could argue semantics, right?
Right.
Yeah, like how we've normalized war in this country. Like we're just numb to it because we've been in a perpetual state of war for decades now.
We have
So it
800
doesn't even move us.
military around the world.
Yeah, 800 military bases around the world. Yeah.
Nobody else has more than one or two. Russia has 2 or 3. China has 1 or 2.
It's a bit like a dog pissing on a tree, though,
Yep.
or whatever. They don't got so many bases, but Russia's got they've invested their military strength elsewhere. So,
Mhm.
so what are we moving on to some other topics?
Yeah,
We forgot to put up our little banner
yeah.
here.
Welcome, Desert Mantis.
That was our last
Welcome,
topic.
Desert Mantis.
Yeah, welcome. Sorry.
So, well, there is some light at the. Well, okay. Let me just read it first, and then I'll tell you what I think. Because there are some UAW members who have voted on a resolution calling for the leadership to rescind the Biden endorsement. So UAW, Labor for Palestine, is a coalition of UAW union workers who support the liberation of Palestine. They voted unanimously on Wednesday to release an official statement calling for the labor group's leadership to rescind its endorsement for President Joe Biden's reelection. The coalition joins a growing number of rank-and-file members, groups leveraging their unions' political cash to pressure the White House to stop abetting Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza. The groundswell of support signals a public shift concerning the occupation of Palestine, which had previously received fairly little attention within the U.S. labor movement. So here's a quote. It's an unprecedented breakthrough in labor in this country to have resolutions passed, even the weak resolutions which challenge effectively the domination and the stranglehold of Zionism within American labor. So, and then some other people have joined in also. Here's another quote before I talk about the other members who are joining in from other unions. So something I'm disappointed by is that International Executive Board didn't give members an opportunity to weigh in on whether they would have wanted to endorse Joe Biden. Isn't that something? How did he just made the decision himself? That makes no sense. How are you, you're representing a people that you don't speak to and find out who they want to endorse? It was just, that just was unbelievable to me. So then also the members of the UAW, representing nearly 400,000 active workers employed on your manufacturer, nonprofit entities, government bodies, and universities, are not the only activists acting against their leadership endorsements of Biden's reelection in support of Palestine. Educators for Palestine is the grassroots mobilization campaign that was launched by dissenting rank-and-file members of the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association. So they are also in lockstep with the UAW for Palestine for rescinding their endorsement of Biden. Meanwhile, members of the Service Employees International Union, the politically influential union representing roughly 2 million public health care workers, have campaigned in solidarity with Palestine through the Purple Up for Palestine collective, a nod to the union's signature purple and yellow colors. The collective's list of demands stopped short of a call to rescind the union's endorsement of Biden, which was announced in April last year. April, like they don't even want to see if there's anybody else. Biden is their guy. So I'm gonna stop there for a second because I want to get your opinions of how this the Service Employees International Union, okay, they're like, yes, it should be a ceasefire. You know, that's in our demands, but we're not going to rescind our endorsement of Biden. Like, how does that make sense? It's the cognitive dissonance is strong with that one, man. Like, take a stand.
Yeah. Well, I
Any
feel like cognitive
thoughts
dissonance
on
is
that?
the point. Maybe they're trying to say I have the right to my opinion, and you have your opinion, and your opinion isn't any more right than mine, and that's not actually true. There are many instances of people having opinions that are more correct than someone else's. So,
And what they're doing is incrementalism, baby steps. You know, we need major, big time change. And what you hear typically is a comment like, "Now is not the time," you know, and that's all they've got is weak BS. That's all they've got.
yeah, that's like Martin
Yes,
Luther
they
King
want
said,
you to do.
agree with your
Yeah.
words, but not your strategy. I forget. I paraphrase it.
Mm.
Yep, they want us to be accepting of having crumbs at the table instead of having a meal.
Anyway, so shall we move to the next
Yep.
topic?
So I just thought that was interesting, and I that
Mhm.
it takes genocide for them to come together and say no, we don't want this. But like Todd Smith said, pick one of a gazillion reasons to not endorse Biden. It doesn't have to just like if the only thing that's going to move you in that way is genocide. Well, we're in bad shape. We're in real bad shape.
But you know, that was some of the strategy that Hamas had as far as there was a lot of stuff in the works in Israel. I forget exactly what was going on, but they were just getting ready to fully marginalize the Palestinians, just write them off. You know, it's never going to be a two-state solution. There's not going to be a one-state solution for Palestine, and that's why Hamas decided to attack October 7th. And it's also why the Israeli intelligence forces knew it was going to happen, allowed it to happen, because that would let them begin their final solution for the Palestinian problem, which is ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, I saw a video I didn't watch today cropped up in my feed from the Gray Zone. Apparently, there's even more new revelations from October 7th yet to come out now. So if anyone's interested, check that one out.
Max does an amazing job of getting the real stories out and debunking the BS stories.
Well, if you believe at this point that Hamas killed all 1,200 people and they're horrible terrorists or whatever, you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, Israelis are they're like burying the cars that got torched with the bodies still in it so that they can hide the evidence or whatever. They're exploiting their the burial rituals of Judaism to do a quick burial so as to not have to do forensic evidence examination beforehand, 24-hour burial period. Like there are plenty of little things, what's that word, whatever, circumstantial evidence. There is enough of a burden of circumstantial evidence where that circumstantial evidence alone is enough to prove something if there's enough of it. And they have taken the steps to make it impossible to get more than circumstantial evidence by destroying evidence in front of the world.
And they have those pictures of looks like hundreds of burnt cars, all bumper to bumpers, 6 and 8 wide and 50 cars long or something. And they said that the only thing that could do that would be Hellfire missiles fired from attack helicopters. The Hamas went in there with, Kalashnikovs and RPGs. That was their main, their only weapons. And holy smokes! I mean, that had to have been like several hundred people just fried, and there were festival goers. There were also some Hamas hostage takers, all mixed in. And like you said, they just hauled them out, buried them before
Did we lose
do
Stephen
any
there?
forensic evidence analysis.
You had frozen for me. I don't
Did
know.
I cut out?
A little bit, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's okay, whatever. Go on with the next.
Yep.
Okay, we got some comments.
Well, it's getting kind of late. I had like 5. Yeah, we do. Desert Mantis says, our media and lost it. There we go. Our media and government operate on the premise of lying by omission. Right. So I operate on the premise of they're lying to me. Let me figure out how and why. I wish more of us did that.
Well, I had to write a book about it. I just couldn't keep it all straight. I've got 20 chapters in my book, and it's like the 20 biggest issues that we've had in the last 10 or 15 years. It's just, it's hard to keep all the lies and deceptions straight.
People wonder why you obsess so much about all these lies. You're never going to keep track of all of them. It's like, it's not about keeping track of all of them. It's about holding people accountable and figuring out what to do about like what's right and what's not, so as to not be constantly duped all the time. It's like,
yeah. And they never do accept, like the Steele dossier for Russiagate. All these media, Rachel Maddow, oh my God, for 3 years, the Mueller investigation is going to do this, it's going to do that. And then
Russia.
when it does nothing, just what? Oh, we have this next topic to discuss. That's forgotten. Here comes next.
but they've been pushing the Russian lie for so long, or whatever, that it's turned into a truth now that Russia's a real threat, or whatever. But what did you expect? Okay, you can't talk shit about somebody for that long,
That's
right?
what
Not even
Matt
behind their back.
That's what Matt Taibbi said with the Twitter files, is that it wasn't just lying and deplatforming and demonetizing and canceling. It was an attempt to reframe reality. Like when the vaccine was proven to be it didn't stop the spread, somebody got a hold of Merriam-Webster and got them to change the definition of what a vaccine is.
They changed
trying to reframe reality.
They changed the definition of a vaccine. They changed the definition of a pandemic.
Yep.
Changed the definition of a virus.
Disclaimer.
Yep.
Disclaimer, I don't know what I'm talking about. These are just interesting things.
Oh, yeah, safe and effective.
The vaccine is safe and effective.
Safe and effective, that's right.
With a broad definition of what the subjective word safe
disclaimer.
and subjective word effective mean. Sure.
So I definitely don't want to.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
Come down on me.
Sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
I just don't want to have the powers that be come down on me. It's safe and effective.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. We may be concerned.
But that was hilarious what you said about Rachel Maddow about Mueller. Like she went on and on and on about, boy, when that Mueller report comes out, it's going to be over for him. That's it. Everything's going to come out. And after a while, I was like, well, is Mueller even alive? Like what? He finally comes out with Big Nothing Burger.
No collusion.
Be
Yeah,
careful.
they were
when you-
just stringing us along, and then, yep. And the way she transitioned out of that to the next thing. Okay, well now let's do RussiaGate. Let me drag you along with this one for another 3 years or
Yeah.
what have you. It's just
And then, you know,
ridiculous.
Glenn Greenwald was trying to make that Hunter Biden laptop story an October surprise. And the Intercept, you know, editor said, no, sorry. And Glenn Greenwald started the Intercept. He said, well, bye. You know, he just said, no way. You're going to try to censor me? And you said I could do any, you know, Pierre, the billionaire owner that started, that financed Intercept. You know, it's just the powers that be are all on board with progress until it goes against their plan. You know, and then everything changes. You know, those who were heroes are now despised, and the canceling and the censorship and the labeling political dissent as hate speech. Oh my God, we're doomed.
So, Abby, did you have something to finish?
Oh, Desert Mantis says they changed the definition of recession.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, for the sake of time, I guess we could just move on. It was just Biden's visit to the Michigan UAW members, and it's disgusting. I could only get through like 5 minutes of it. If you guys want to go through it, we can.
And in that case,
It's
maybe
hard
it sounds
for me to listen to. Yeah, I don't care for it.
like I got enough things to move on with. Whatever we probably got more things worth talking about. I guess you might say.
Let's go.
Okay, let me see. Could have had my screen a bit shared ahead of time a bit better, but here we go. So I thought that this little image is this is a post from Danny Haifong. If you haven't seen Danny's channel, I think it's just called Danny Haifong. So type that into YouTube, whatever, take a look. He's a good resource on China, alternative perspective from the average person you'll hear on the street. He put this is an accurate description of Europe at this point in history.
He's very smart.
Yeah, he's done his homework, right? So Russia is to blame for everything, right? The EU. So I maybe should have it. It would be smoother if I would just share my entire screen. So I guess I'll do that this time. So here we go.
Yep.
So I wanted to talk about. Can you put up that banner for the EU farmer? Scroll down the screen. Because we're on our next topic here. So the European farmers' protest changed speed, but discontent continues smoldering. So there's been a lot going on. They've been protesting since October. So enough has been happening so that there's some significant changes over the next few months. There's maybe some people going home. We'll see if that means the whole collapse of the entire movement. I highly doubt it. So moving on, European farmers have been protesting for months, with demonstrations spreading around the continent, culminating in last week's descent on Brussels. And while the movement is now changing gear, stakeholders warn more actions will be forthcoming. To date, Austria, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden are the only EU countries where farmers have not taken to the streets. And while sporadic rallies are continuing in some countries, others have taken a pause to figure out their next move and mobilize more troops. We're giving ourselves until the Salon de l'Agriculture to come up with concrete measures, and until June to enshrine them in law. Rousseau, I kind of skipped a little bit of this. So this is the president of the leading French farmers organization, Arnaud Rousseau, is telling them that they're giving themselves until the Salon de l'Agriculture to come up with concrete measures, and until June to enshrine them in law, referring to France's most important agricultural fair starting on the 24th of February. So their protests are coordinated for some annual events. If we were citizens of those countries, we would be much more well aware of them. So in Germany, where farmers' protests peaked with about 30,000 farmers and 5,000 tractors in Berlin in mid-January, the feud between the government and the growers could drag on longer. Their action depends on the outcome of a Bundesrat vote on the budget, which is unlikely to occur before the 22nd of March. There's a map kind of showing you mapping the farmers' protest in Europe, although from what brief research I've done, I don't know why this is all.
Wow, I didn't know it was that massive.
But I don't know why they're missing this. There's some protests that have been happening. I know that maybe Croatia is about to protest and haven't done so yet. But from what I came across or whatever, they had a protest last year over something similar. I'll get to it. I'll show you whatever. But these maps aren't always reliable, quite so. In Italy, the recriminations against the institutional farmers' organizations are the main driving force of the protests, unpredictable as they are, led by various grassroots associations. So that is very tightly said. It's just one little sentence, but this is a sentence that's saying a lot. They're trying not to elaborate.
Oh, am I?
Okay. Sorry. You got a comment there, Abby? Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I did, but like that was a little while.
Yeah, because when I'm
So
sharing my whole screen, I
I
can't.
think it's doing the lag thing, so I'm just gonna be quiet, okay?
Yeah, we're lagging pretty bad this time. So maybe with Steven here, I'm not sure what would be the cause. We'll have to. I didn't think in adding a third person should slow things down much, but
Technical difficulties.
okay, I'll jump back into it. Let's see.
Well, maybe he could hear us.
Here we go.
All I was
Can you hear me?
saying was that why aren't North America as a whole joining them?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that too, and my speculation on that is how much of the farmland is more like corporate owned kind of thing. So then how much is Europe unionized? Their farmers associations more unionized than the States. I know Bill Gates owns a lot of farmland, so I'm just curious as to how organized the farmers are in North America. I thought I have to double check the statistic. I think they're like 97% white. So there might be some backward peasant thinking or whatever. Who knows? Like kulaks, a bunch of kulaks. Are you guys still there?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to proceed here so I can get to the next slides. The Agrarian Chamber of the Czech Republic, and don't let these names fool you. They are intended to be deceptive. It sounds like it's almost like a member of the government, like a ministry by calling it the chamber, but it is just a lobbyist group of the farmers. So the Agrarian Chamber of the Czech Republic called farmers across Europe to take joint action and will discuss the coordination of pan-European protests by farmers at a meeting. Yeah. What's up? I think, am I breaking up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Well, we got a big lag, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, I think he's frozen too as well. So
Well,
it's like we're not.
there is a lag, there is freezing, and there are glitches.
Okay. Yeah. It's hard for me to I thank you for letting me know. I can't tell. So otherwise, I would have just kind of steamrolled on without realizing. Abby has jumped out to see if that will correct it. She'll be right back. I guess I will jump back into it and see if it's working a bit smoother.
Yeah, do that.
So the Agrarian Chamber of the Czech Republic called farmers across Europe to take joint action and will discuss the coordination of pan-European protests by farmers at a meeting of the Visegrad Group, Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia, organizations on 12th and 13th February 2024 in Poland. So this organization seems to be worth taking note of. They may have a notable influence in these protests. Take a look at it if you'd like. Our aim is certainly not to complicate anyone's life, to paralyze transport in cities, and to paralyze the life of society, but we want to draw attention to the broad and deepening problems of farmers, he concluded. So there they are. There's their claim. They are not trying to paralyze things. Believe them if you want to. It's up to you to decide your own thoughts. So, Abby, are you back now? Not quite. Oh, sorry. Okay, so this is just going to move straight on. Not hearing any interruption. Please just interrupt me if I'm getting all choppy and glitchy. So this article is from May 6, 2021. I was looking for which countries were involved and which ones were not and why. And then the Scandinavian countries, quite obviously, they have a much smaller agricultural industry because they're so far north, but people forget that they do still have some farmland. But so I thought this just briefly was worth pointing out just to get a sense of how these negotiations have always been for the past few decades, right? It's a never-ending story, and that's why they're saying enough is enough. We need to put an end to this never-ending story. So negotiations between Norwegian farmers and the government for more agricultural subsidy and financial support ended before they began on Thursday. Now some angry farmers are also threatening coordinated protest action and even civil disobedience in an effort to secure more taxpayer support. So Norway's two major farm lobbying organizations, under severe pressure and criticism from farmers themselves, announced they were refusing to meet officials from the agricultural ministry. They were insulted by the government's initial offer, worth a whole bunch, $1 million of the taxpayers' money. I don't know what the currency, I think it's a kroner of Norway. The farmers had earlier presented demands for twice that amount, amounting to 2.1 billion kroner. That would have given farmers among the biggest pay raises in Norway at a time when other labor groups aren't getting pay hikes that reflect the rise in the cost of living. Farmers, however, claim they've lagged behind for years and it's time for the government to make up for it. So you see the narrative is that they're asking to be subsidized the government's response is to treat the farmers like they're asking for welfare, and that they give them enough welfare, and that they should stop trying to leech off the government and stand on their own 2 feet kind of thing. And then this idea about the biggest pay raises in Norway. Well, if you haven't been having pay raises for years, getting a large pay raise is what we've all been asking for, like fighting for inflation or whatever. If it's not big enough, it doesn't matter. But then, of course, if they frame it as if you're getting a bigger pay raise than everyone else, then you're being greedy. So devil's always in the details. So that's Norway. This is Estonia. And they're saying that was from 2021, by the way. So Norway, I don't think, is really participating in the protest now in 2024. I think they've already kind of had to make their side deal a long time ago, right? So, but in Estonia, they're saying that their agricultural chamber chief has no reason for their farmers to protest right now. He's saying that their government has not yet taken the kind of steps that would make the situation for farmers more difficult, and therefore, farmers in Estonia currently have no reason to take to the streets in protest. And I didn't really feel the need to get more into it than that, because obviously they have a need to be in solidarity with the rest of the farmers Are they really so ignorant as to believe that simply because the government has yet to take the steps that they likely don't have a choice and are going to take eventually, that they don't have a reason to fight, whatever? They're going to be that complacent? Because if you look, the Irish farmers, they're protesting in solidarity with EU. I believe Ireland is still part of the EU, or is that Northern Ireland? I forget. Do you guys know if? I think it's Northern Ireland is like with the UK. Are they the ones that have? Are they the ones? Do you guys remember?
Like Northern
What's that?
Do
Ireland
you
is
know
kind of
which
like
one's
separate
in
from
the EU?
Ireland
Which one's
in some way. I forget.
I think one of them might have Brexited with England, but this is where I should have looked that up before.
Yeah. Yeah. Ireland.
Yeah, like one is there is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Abby. What?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, Northern Ireland is like, it's in Ireland, but it's like a separate entity, some kind of way. I can't remember how that works, but I think
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
they did the
they had a-
Brexit, but Southern Ireland didn't, or vice versa.
They're part of Great Britain. Northern Ireland is part of.
So while you're looking that
As of January 2021, the UK is no
Yeah,
longer part of
okay.
the EU single market. Under the protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland remains in the EU single market for goods. Great Britain is no longer. So I think that means that Ireland is still part of the United Kingdom. So they have withdrawn from the EU, but Northern Ireland remains part of the EU.
That's it.
Short story. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Glad we clarified that for the viewers.
Yeah,
So yeah,
cleared that up.
shall I carry on then?
So while you're looking for your next thing, so Desert Mantis said that the corporate forms will never strike, and when everything was breaking up, I did ask this question, but I don't think you heard me. That I was just like, I didn't realize it was that many countries in Europe that were striking. So I said, wow, why aren't isn't North America getting in on this strike? And so I was Googling it while you were talking, and it looks like there might be a global strike, which will include North American farmers. So that just came out today. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if it gets stopped in its tracks or it gets some momentum.
Right. And another thing to keep in mind that this isn't like other industries striking. If every single farmer around the world struck all at once, that's pretty dangerous for our food supply. So there has to be some type of rationality to this type of thing, right? But that doesn't mean that you can just let the physiocrats, the people who own and control all the land and the food supply, to dictate all the terms. You need to not let them, like Henry Kissinger said, or whatever, control the food, control the people, whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm,
So let's see if I can.
that's a good point.
Back here. Yeah. Irish farmers protest in solidarity with EU neighbors. Yeah. They feel they are being regulated out of business by Brussels, bureaucrats, and Department of Agriculture officials who are far removed from the reality of day-to-day farming. Irish farmers are pro-EU, but there is mounting frustration about the impact of EU policy on European farmers and its implementation here in Ireland. So this may actually be not Northern Ireland, but Ireland protesting in solidarity, even though they're no longer part of the EU. Moving on to Athens, so I can try and just give a little bit of a picture into each struggle. This is from February 5th. Farmers determined to move their tractors to Athens. What I thought was worth pointing out here, there have been some floods in September 2023, so that's part of what's the difference with Greece, that they haven't been compensated for. So Late last week, the government announced some measures such as funding of solar panels installation, a 10% discount on power PPC tariffs. A lot of this stuff I don't even know. If you're interested, ever look into it, right? But it's just mundane kind of economic details. So for the tariffs for the critical growing months of the year, a 10-year debt settlement of all the country's land improvement organizations, and state coverage of 75% of debts, especially in Thessaly, which the farmers consider as insufficient. So I don't really understand what would be a fair deal because I'm not a farmer in Thessaly, but I thought 75% of your debt's covered sounds kind of good, whatever. But maybe they got a lot of debts, whatever, based on the business environment. So earlier today, the government spokesman stated that the measures are based on the budgetary margins. He added that the government's resources are not limitless, and thus no further measures are being planned. If you'll remember, Greece is that particular country that was very badly exploited by the IMF, and so this might not be entirely false that they maybe are having a hard time juggling their resources, but that doesn't mean that they're not capable of acting like they don't have money when they do, and making bad fiscal decisions on top of bad fiscal decisions like we've always heard about. So the farmers responded that the government can in fact give more, it only does not want to do so. So who's right and who's wrong? You tell me. Farmers in Thessaly responded that they were not to blame for the floods in September 2023 and called on the government to compensate their loss of crops, livestock, and destroyed machinery, and to drain the many still flooded farms and crop fields before this year's planting and growing season. They warned that failure to do so will result in a massive drop of agricultural goods production this year. So this is a clear case of capitalism being ridiculous and insisting that a flood like that is something like an act of God, but they don't have to help you in any way afford to fix your farm or whatever and provide food for the population. Like, it's not like a classic business collapse or whatever. But you guys got some commentary?
My whole presentation is a takeoff on what you're talking about, Michael. So I don't really have anything to add except what I'm about to add.
Okay, so I can keep going then, because I'm just trying to touch on each briefly. So let me know if I'm rambling or if you got anything to say. And otherwise, I'll keep going.
No, it's all good.
So this is Italian and Spanish farmers escalate protests. This is from January 31st. The protests of Italian farmers. Now, of course, I don't get to read the whole article, but what I do get to read is worth enough showing you. So the protests of Italian farmers have never stopped since they began, and they are now escalating. Today, tractorcades are blocking roads around major cities, including Milan, Mantova, Verona, and other cities in Lombardy, Tuscany, Calabria, and Sardinia. A blockade of Rome is planned. The protests are self-organized by local committees such as Comitati Riuniti Agricoli or Riscatto Agrario, which are exposing the complicity of established farmers' unions with the EU and the national green lobbies. So does this seem a bit like the UAW issue we were just having with Sean Fain, that maybe some of these established farmers' unions can be stabbing you in the back, just like the Trotskyites have been warning about all this? You know, I got to give them some credit when they're right about something, right? But what to do about it, right? So, CRA leader Danilo Calvani has exposed a government attempt to crush the protests. In a Facebook video, Calvani said that counter-gang farmer groups have been created overnight who will meet Agriculture Minister Francesco Lollobrigida in Verona today, so he can declare an agreement between farmers and the government has been reached. Such tricks have been used in the past, and back then farmers fell in the trap, but this time they will not. So the Italian farmers seem to know what's up. They see I've got a bit of a Marxist history that we gotta probably some of us know about pretty well. So hopefully that history leaves them better prepared than some of these other countries that might have been more right wing. So Although we know Italy was the one that became fascist Mussolini or whatever. But so Croatian farmers likely to join EU-wide protest February 7th, yesterday. Croatian farmers getting increasingly frustrated with the demands of the Green Deal and trade liberalization negotiations with Mercosur could soon join their colleagues across the EU who have been protesting for weeks. So that sounds like they have not been protesting, but I think that they will be. So according to the new CAP, among other things, we should photograph everything we do. We would, for example, be expected to take pictures of every trip to the field and everything we did there, and to send hundreds and thousands of pictures as a condition for receiving support. And we don't even know if we will get it. Until recently, they said that satellites would do such things. How will farmers do it now? It's not their job, especially the elderly. So this comment here, when you understand that 70% of the child labor worldwide is in agriculture, I find that a little bit on the nose, okay? Because most of the farm work is not being done by the elderly. And I would ask, of the farmers that are old, that are working beyond retirement, how many of them are continuing to work past retirement for the sole purposes of maintaining proprietary control, like executive control? I think that that's a lot to do with it. There's the older generation feels like maybe a younger generation is not trustworthy with the reins of power quite yet, and then they hold on to it beyond the point where they should have already given it up. So, but that's neither here nor there. European farmers are increasingly prevented from using pesticides and herbicides, while at the same time, products are imported from other parts of the world where the same criteria are not applied. Farmers are also furious about the EU's trade liberalization negotiations with Mercosur. This is what they're talking about. Mercosur is this South American countries that the EU wants to import food from, and they are not currently under the same criteria as the EU farmers are complaining about. And I agree with them on that makes no sense that you would impose a ban on them so that you could import from elsewhere so that the consumer can still consume the pesticides. Like, the government seems to feel like they can get away with the most ridiculous lie or whatever every time. And I don't know why they think everyone's so stupid. Like, they deserve kind of this anger. So European and Croatian farmers are also worried about the massive import of Ukrainian grain and other agricultural products from that country into the Union. So this is the other thing simmering. It would be bad enough if it was just the Ukrainian grain problem upsetting their markets, but they're also going through this massive, very disastrous and damaging policy change at the same time. And it's probably not really an accident that they're happening at this. I'm not sure it would be possible for them to ram this deal through if they didn't have a crisis that's making everyone kind of not pay attention to it so much. So HPK also warns of all these problems. The press release states that the agreement with Mercosur is unacceptable for most farmers in the EU. So that's the democracy right there. The farmers say, the majority of them, it's not acceptable, and they disagree with the majority opinion because they are the bureaucrats who want to decide things. So, in addition, farmers in Croatia only recently ended their revolt against measures to fight African swine fever. The protest came to an end at the end of 2023. So I didn't have time to look into that. Fighting against measures to fight African swine fever, that doesn't sound like good optics. But knowing how things have gone with the COVID stuff, the measures imposed to fight a virus may very well be very restrictive and business crippling, and may be designed for that purpose. Safe and effective. Don't know what I'm talking about. Disclaimer, you know, right? So this is the same website, euractiv.com. France reaffirms opposition to EU Mercosur deal as farmers' protests mount. January 29th. So a lot of people have heard that some of the protests in France the protesters might be going home because France is announcing that they've come to a bit of a deal. So let's take a look at this. The EU-Mercosur deal is the focus of all the criticism, given the huge amounts of agricultural imports planned to pour into the EU each year. 99,000 tons of beef, 25,000 tons of pork, 180,000 tons of poultry and sugar. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal and MPs from all sides of the political spectrum have reaffirmed France's opposition to the EU-Mercosur deal, basically under pressure from their farmers marching on Paris, whatever, although maybe they already were in opposition, but without the farmers marching, would they have maintained their stance? Who knows? In the coming days, the European Commission is expected to present a cumulative impact assessment of the trade agreements signed by the EU from the one with South Korea signed in 2011 onward. The EU has just ratified a free trade agreement with New Zealand, signed one with Kenya, and is preparing to sign 2 others with Chile and Mercosur, which is Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. The European Commission and Mercosur members would like to sign the agreement at the next World Trade Organization Ministerial Summit from the 26th to 29th of February. Furthermore, the Vice President of the European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis, said on the 23rd of January on the sidelines of an informal council of EU trade ministers that the bloc is negotiating further agreements with India, Indonesia, Australia, Mercosur, Thailand, and others. So you see there's a lot of deals going on when we're all busy focused on the war. As much as we're trying to help people in Palestine by speaking about what's happening to them, and as important as it is, we do have to remember that there are some, if we don't keep abreast of what's happening with other things, we might be able to help them less than we want to, because we're going to get fucked more than we want to. So the free trade agreement between the EU and Mercosur has been on the negotiating table for some 20 years, and negotiators found common ground in 2019 before the position of Brazil's then President Jair Bolsonaro dampened relations. However, with the rise to power of socialist Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in 2023, hopes for a swift signing of the deal appeared once again. So this is seems a bit twisted on its head, because this is a deal that is like pushing food, agriculture commodities that are gained through deforestation and that kind of thing, which is the sort of thing you would have thought that Jair Bolsonaro would have been more on board with. But I guess he's not really liking some of these impositions that the EU wants to place on them. But then it's a little bit like, is this the real story of what happens when a socialist rises to power, that you get a swift signing of a deal that everyone in the European Union is protesting about? I feel like this is a word abuse of the word socialist. I mean, I don't know about Lula. I should learn more, but there's so much to learn all the time. Yeah, I think that was all I wanted to talk about with that.
No, Glenn Greenwald does not trust him.
Yeah, Lula
does not trust Lula.
Yeah, I think there was another reason. I have to try and remember. I think Lula sent troops into Haiti. That would be a reason not to trust him. Yeah. So, but that's the thing about, they say you got to work with the right, whatever. We're not going to get anything done all alone. So then we end up putting our chips on guys like Lula, and let's pay attention to the consequences of those choices. So,
yep.
Let's see here. So, jumping over to Serbia very quickly, just to point out a little tongue in cheek.
While you're looking for the next one, I was just going to show it.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, show some comments.
Oh, That was a huge delay. Yeah, that was a huge delay. So Tajman says, who looks out for the black farmers and those sleazy ass tactics used on them? There is a National Black Farmers Association in North America. I've seen him speak a lot, mostly on Fox News, though. I've actually never seen him on MSNBC. That doesn't mean he hasn't gone on there. I've just never seen it. He usually goes on Fox News, so I don't know what that means about his politics. It might be that only Fox News will have him on, and MSNBC doesn't want to, deal with that unless there's a way for them to use him efficiently. I don't know. But yeah, we should cover that. She also says you'd be surprised at how many black farming families have been robbed of their family's legacy. That is true. Maybe that's something I'll try to cover at a later time. That would be awesome.
Well, yeah, when you learn about Bill Gates buying up all the farmland, that's a quick thing to say in a blurb or whatever. But when you think about the process unfolding, that's like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many farmers getting gypped in really bad deals, getting forced into selling their land for pennies on the dollar, you say. So that's what it really looks like, right? But
didn't Monsanto, they've changed their name since, but they created the seed that only harvest once, and then you have to go buy the seeds from them. And the big deal, the big deal with that was that when the wind would blow, sometimes those seeds would go off into another farmer's land. And if they didn't buy the seeds, Monsanto would sue them. So the seeds are growing in their land, no fault to them. It's just the way the wind was blowing and carrying the seeds over to another crop. And Monsanto used that as a reason to try to steal people's property.
Yeah, that's like invading with seeds. That's like using warfare tactics in agriculture. It's messed up.
Economic warfare.
Yeah. So here's from Serbia. It's a bit jumping around or whatever, but that's what you're going to get when you're trying to talk about all the protests at once. In Serbia, opposition erects roadblocks. President of Serbia doesn't send police. While in the EU, farmers' protests are being suppressed with armored vehicles. So, you know how Serbia is the one that's more pro-Russian, right? And so they've been taking a lot of flack for standing up against against the support for Ukraine and stuff. And so it's nice to sort of have a story like this where they have an opportunity to be all so clearly signaling. There's a bit of a virtue signal to me, because it's like the absurdity is that the opposition criticizes the government and talks about dictatorship, complains about it to the European Union, and the same European Union solves problems with armored vehicles, according to the media. So they're saying the opposition in Serbia always criticizes the government for being a dictatorship, and they whine about it to the EU, which is the real dictatorship. So they have an opportunity, because of the protest in Europe or whatever, the Serbian government has a chance to virtue signal or whatever that they are not a dictatorship or whatever. There's not much of this story to it than that. I can't read Serbian or whatever, but it is worth pointing out, right? That if they were the dictators they're being accused of or whatever, they would be the ones suppressing with armored vehicles. So why is it? You tell me, random whatever shitlib, why Serbia is treating their farmer protests with more respect than the EU, why the so-called democracy shining on the hill there, right? Make it make sense. So see where, okay.
Because the shit libs are living shit up again.
Yeah. But these guys are
so
putting the shit
while you're
on
pulling up the next one, I just
these European farmers are putting the shit on the parliament buildings or whatever, at least in France or whatever. Sorry.
Oh man, I love how they protest. So they're like spraying manure in the streets, dropping manure in politicians' yards. I love it.
I'd rather they do that than burn a rubber tire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to take this opportunity to say hello to Rondo. He's joined the chat. So welcome, Rondo. And yep, and John H is in the chat. We didn't get a chance to say hello to them as well. And as well as Mastermind. So thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate you.
All right, cool. I'm going to try and wrap up a bit because I realize I'm being a bit long-winded on this one, but that's okay. We're getting a nice nice glimpse into what's different about each thing, kind of what little bit we're allowed to hear, because this is sort of all you can find when you Google stuff or whatever. But negotiations and farmers can. Oh, I think I might have. Okay, yeah, no, I thought I got them mixed up, but this one's from January 17th. Negotiations end, but farmers continue protest in Romania. Farmers and truckers announced on January 16th that they would continue their countrywide protests, even though Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu, said on January 15th that 99% of their requests were settled, and the agricultural minister declared the negotiations over. The ad hoc representatives of truckers and farmers submitted to the government on January 16th a list of no less than 76 demands that need to be addressed to stop the protests that started a week ago, according to Euronews Romania. They request, among other things, measures to reduce the price of third-party liability insurance, to block the outsourcing of profits to multinational companies. That sounds like a good idea. Or to remove the financing of political parties from the budget because it would represent a black hole. Also sounds like a very solid idea. Part of them may be justified, but developed to the point where they resemble the political platform of an opposition party rather than just farmers and truckers' problems. So they see how that's how they're treating them. It's like, yes, some of your complaints are justified, but you guys are acting too political. You know, this is work. You don't bring the politics to the work of these guys. The protesters have so far rejected the use of their actions by existing far-right parties. So, of course, they're always going to be treated like if you protest or whatever, if you're a convoy trucker, you must be far-right. But then this is what happened recently, this couple days ago. Farmers and truckers agree to end protests in Romania. So I'm not a little bit sure as to what's really going on. I guess we'll have to keep our eyes open. Romania's government announced the signing of an agreement with representatives of farmers and haulers, which will put an end to the protests carried out across the country over the past weeks, mainly at the customs points used by the grain trucks from Ukraine and around major cities. The agreement provides for the formation of an intergovernment committee that will settle on a case-by-case basis that protesters' requirements remain unanswered. So that's not a good signal to me that they've made an agreement that they're going to settle things on a case-by-case basis. What's the point in going on a unified strike if you get an agreement that you have to settle individually, one by one? So that does not sound like a victory to me. Sorry,
it's given the vibes of we've investigated ourselves and we found no wrongdoing. Okay, goodbye.
And from what they were saying about the Italian protesters not being able to trust their representatives of their farmers, their lobbyists or whatever, sounds like the lobbyists, just like the UAW union head, want to sell out the people they're supposed to be representing and cut a backroom deal, lo and behold, like a corrupt union, whatever, always does, kind of thing, whatever. So please, let's fix this problem. This is not okay because it's damaging. So,
what do you think about? I wanted to ask this after playing that Biden going to the UAW. But for the sake of time, we passed it up. But I did want to ask this question and pose this to the both of you. Like, what do you think about it? Like, I think unions should remain apolitical. Like, these are our demands, and that's what we're focusing on, our demands. If no one's met them yet, then there's, what are you endorsing them for? Right? I don't think that's a good move, because it just gives you so now your union leaders are getting pandered to get an endorsement. And so who knows what kind of backroom deals are being done to get that endorsement. That doesn't mean you're getting anything for your endorsement. Like, the demands are clear and they need to be met. Period. This isn't political. This is, this is real life.
Well, sounds good, right?
That's
does.
my take on it.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
All right, so let me jump
Mhm.
back into it so we can get to a point where Stephen can contribute his commentary on my little presentation here. So, Polish farmers will block the first checkpoint on the border with Ukraine on February 9th, which is tomorrow. According to the preliminary information from the Polish side, local farmers plan to start a strike at separate checkpoints on the Polish-Ukrainian border in the morning of February 9th. This was reported by the State Customs Service of Ukraine. The local authorities have approved the protest until March 9th, 2024. The protesters intend to allow the passage of all buses and one cargo vehicle in both directions within an hour. There will also be unhindered passage of humanitarian aid and fuel tankers into Ukraine. So I feel like if there's one criticism I have of this farmers protest, is that they missed a golden opportunity to make this also an anti-war protest and demand a ceasefire.
Mhm.
But they want to be selfish and make it about them in some sense or whatever. Shouldn't call them selfish. That's maybe a strong word, but they don't feel that they feel maybe it's not strategic to make it about Palestine and Ukraine, when the war in Ukraine or whatever could be brought to an end probably faster if they recognize it's a class war against them as much as it is against the Ukrainians. So
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity to speak out against NATO.
yeah, the
For
NATO
sure.
that totally fucking flew them into this, whatever, like into a brick wall. So this is from the Budapest Times. Agricultural minister discusses Ukrainian grain influx. Farmers protest with Slovak counterpart. This wouldn't let me highlight, so don't quite figure out. So this is a Hungarian minister talking with the Slovak minister. So they're talking about in order to protect Hungarian farmers, the government will maintain a ban on Ukrainian grain that it announced on its own authority last year in view of the lack of EU action. So I would say that this is maybe the sort of stuff that threatens the unity of the European Union altogether. And if they can't resolve these situations, whatever, in a way that doesn't destroy their unity, whatever, in the face of everyone else, whatever, like, then how much longer do you think the EU is going to last if they can't deal with these kinds of problems? Like, Nagy said, forget what his actual, Istvan Nagy. So Nagy said Hungarian farmers would join the protesters in Brussels, demonstrating against EU agricultural policies. Hungary would like as many member states as possible to support its fight in Brussels against the threat posed by Ukrainian agriculture. So this sounds, that to me gives a hint, like maybe some of the leadership of these protests might be coming from Eastern Europe for once. Ukraine's EU accession would bring lasting difficulties for Hungarian producers, as Hungarian farmers working amid the limits of EU regulations can't compete with giant Ukrainian farms, which are in the hands of global capital and must abide by much laxer rules. So So you see how Ukraine is very much in the same category as like Brazil, where they're in the hands of global capital and they have to abide by much laxer rules. And the EU people are the ones forcing to sign a deal that's not in their best interests. So I wanted to talk a bit about this one or whatever. European bill passes bill to ban imports of deforestation-linked commodities. I think this is really shows you how the EU is contradicted themselves in a legal fashion that's like not insignificant. Like you can't just make laws and then break them after you pass them. I thought, but you know,
Of course you can.
of course you can. So I maybe should have. I should read this part probably just to kind of give you an idea of what this is, or whatever. But the imports of 14 types of commodities into the European Union will soon have to be verified for possible association with deforestation in the countries in which they were produced. That's the key provision in a bill passed on September 13th by the European Parliament, which initially targeted soy, beef, palm oil, timber, cocoa, and coffee, but now also includes pork, lamb, and goat meat, as well as poultry, corn, rubber, charcoal, and printed paper. The bill still needs the approval of the Council of the EU, although this was from September 2022, so I do believe in April 2023 they got that approval. But it is considered a historic step against deforestation. In Brazil, experts have welcomed the bill as a means of tackling the demand-side pressures driving increasing levels of deforestation in the Amazon rainforest, while the agribusiness lobby has denounced it as unfair, of course. The bill doesn't explicitly name any country as a target of the restrictions, but the measures are widely expected to affect exports from commodity-producing countries like Brazil that had pressured the EU for less restricted terms. Now, it's important that it does not explicitly name any country as a target, and it targets countries like Brazil, because like I said, with Ukraine, they've got a deforestation problem of their own, which created their farming industry. So if you're actually, if you mean what you say or whatever, then you have to apply the same rules that you do to Brazil, to Ukraine. And therein lies the rub, because they just can't do that when they've already made promises to give them exceptions to the rule. So in late July, Brazil and 13 other commodity exporting countries sent a letter to the European Commission, which drafted the bill, warning that the proposed restrictions could violate international trade treaties. Good thing that that's not international law, but the treaties that they signed that maybe don't have to last forever. So the new rules will force European buyers to take active responsibility by guaranteeing that goods they import into their countries are free of any association with deforestation. So if you're serious about that or whatever, then I guess you won't be able to import any grain from Ukraine, right? Another part of the bill obliges companies to verify whether the products they're buying were produced in compliance with international human rights provisions and respects for the rights of indigenous peoples. This is a good thing too. So when they're opposing things, the agribusiness lobby opposes it for being unfair. Well, unfair for who? Because the indigenous peoples have been fighting for their rights for a very long time. And I hope that they don't have to have their rights given to them by the European Union or whatever. I doubt it's not really the right way to frame it or whatever. But if anything helps them closer to their goal, then we should applaud that. So I think that's the rest of what I wanted to show from that. So yeah, I'm going to have to skip some of these things. I just wanted to show real funny or whatever about restoring Ukraine's forests in this article. It says, confident that Ukraine will triumph in the war, the researchers are already devising plans for a more sustainable post-war future in forest management. So that's retarded. Okay. Ukraine's not going to win the war or whatever. So how are you going to manage the forests or whatever? But prior to the war, Ukraine's forests were amongst the most damaged in the world. According to Global Forest Watch, Ukraine lost 1.15 million hectares, or 10% of total tree cover, between 2001 and 2021. Half of this was when they were not even at war with Donetsk and Lugansk, and this is the other half. Anyway, in 2020 alone, it lost 66,400 hectares of natural forest. The expansion of agriculture in this major food exporting country had substantially decreased forest coverage. Almost half of Ukraine is currently farmland. And if you look back in history, like it used to be covered in forest. So they want to I think that's a good point, a place for me to stop sharing or whatever. But I'm saying it's the classic story of telling the global south that they have to adopt climate change rules, whatever, that they don't have to abide by, that the Europeans cut down their forests and made their farmland or whatever that they can now use, but then now you want to do the same to your Amazon forest. You're not allowed to. So you see how these dynamics play. So
yeah, Obama told them they can't have air and heat or something in their homes. Meanwhile, he has like this like crazy square footage mansion in where is it? Yes, in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of thing. Okay, well, Stephen, you want to piggyback off of that? You have any comments?
Just a real quick mention. I mentioned the book that I've been writing for about 10 years, and I'm still editing it. I haven't found a publisher yet. So if anybody knows of a publisher that would, here's the title and subtitles of my book, Full Crazy Town: How Our Government's Marriage to Organized Crime Led to Assassinations and a Corporate Coup. Or How Traumatized People Fell for the Biggest Con Job Ever. That would be the Trump derangement syndrome. But my book piggybacks off a lot of what Whitney Webb, epic 2-volume One Nation Under Blackmail, which is mostly about Jeffrey Epstein. And like I mentioned, I'm still editing. And if somebody hears something that I say that sounds like totally whacked, wrong, error prone, let me know, because I describe my book as a memoir and a mission. I don't consider myself an investigative reporter. I consider myself an activist. So a lot of what my book has is quotes from Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, Max Blumenthal, Jimmy Dore, and others. And I'm still in the. I thought I was done until genocide broke out, and then it really seemed. It's like what Nick Cruz said on October 8th. This is it. It's go time. This is the penultimate moment in our nation's history, in my opinion. And Michael, what you were saying about the food supply and the farmer protest reminded me of the World Economic Forum, and I got onto these guys pretty early when I was writing my book. Because people were saying they're right out there in the open. Look at their mission statement about the Great Reset. And so in getting ready for this, I went back to the WEF's website and looked at the mission statement. It wasn't there. And, what was there was 100 members, corporations, owners, and managers, been around for 50 years, with the goal of globalization for the betterment of humankind. It's basically a club for bankers and billionaires who know how the world should be run for the benefit of everyone. That is, those who are left after 6 or 7 billion people have been eliminated. This is their plan to reduce the food supply, to control all water and food resources. And they have the influence to make it happen. Now, their website just talks about all these groovy things: nature and biodiversity, trade and investment, chemical and advanced materials, energizing technologies, global health, leadership, gender inequality. Toss that one right in with all the biggest issues of the day. It is an international organization for public and private cooperation. And anytime you talk about a partnership, a public-private partnership, that's one definition of fascism. The forum engages the foremost political, business, cultural, and other leaders of society. The fact that these issues, the cultural issues, have polarized our society shows how major these issues are and how they're why they're tumbled into political, business, and other issues in world events. But in the truth, the WEF is their mission statement, their website doesn't say anything about the farmer protests or their plan for farmers, the plan to eliminate carbon-based nitrogen fertilizers so that the effects of global warming are minimized. Fewer farmers means less food, lower population, all in the name of reducing the human footprint. Now, that's what they do mention. They say in reducing the human footprint, but it's actually reducing humans. A lot of people who study these folks say that they want to take the world population down to about 1 billion people, and by any means necessary, to quote Malcolm X. But they want the fields to lay fallow and to recover from the decades of the carbon-based nitrogen fertilizers. The Great Reset is not mentioned in the WEF webpage. It has its own separate page. And they say that it was in response to the COVID crisis. But the Great Reset has been around for at least 10 years. And it mainly, like I said, it was talking about just reframing reality, trying to get the population down, trying to reduce the terrible effects that the people have, excessive population have brought upon our beautiful earth. But the Wikipedia definition of Great Reset is in response to the COVID crisis launched in June 2020 by then Prince of Wales, Charles, rebuild from the global COVID-19 crisis a way that prioritizes sustainable development. Klaus Schwab lays out 3 core components: create a stakeholder economy. Now, this is where you take, you have, hey, who wants to invest in food and water? And like all these billionaires pony up all this money. Okay, well, we're going to try to take over all the food and water in the world and basically give you a return on your investment based on how successful we are. And that's what it is, like billions, hundreds of billions of dollars going into the stakeholder economy. They want to use the ESG metrics to measure success, the environmental, social, and governance metrics. They want to harness the innovations of the 4th industrial revolution, which is rapid technological advancement for the 21st century. They want large multinational corporations to assume leading roles, not the governments. Large multinational corporations will assume the leading roles. But basically what the WEF is doing is instigating chaos, encouraging civil wars around the world, especially the global south. Austerity programs everywhere, control the world's food and water supplies, separate from U.S. hegemons. which plan on pitting left versus right, blue versus red. This is a worldwide globalization scheme. But here we're still into dividing left and right for U.S. Goals, and we focus on cultural issues, not economic ones. Now, for sure, climate change, immigration, race and gender issues are very important, and they're not to be ignored or downplayed. However, the imperialists use them as wedge issues to divide us, to divert attention from their globalist goals. The WEF's goals mirror those of the Illuminati. Now, we talk about, is it just a conspiracy theory? Or if you read any of Robert Anton Wilson's trilogy, The Illuminati, he talks all about the eye of the pyramid, the Bavarian Illuminati, founded in 1776, conspire to control world affairs by planting agents in governments and corporations in order to gain political power and to establish the new world order, Novus Ordo Seclorum, as it's written on the back of the bill.
And not so new anymore.
Yes.
Not so new world order now.
Yeah, no, it's a happening thing. And then the other quote on the back of the bill is Annuit Coeptus. He favors our undertakings. It's sort of like the WEF's mission statement right out in the open. They're just saying it. There's no conspiracy theory, no hidden agenda. It's out there.
Well, it's like that bigger the lie kind of thing. The reason why so many normies out there can say you're just a conspiracy theorist is because it just sounds so ridiculous. Because
and that
right
term,
out there, like
that.
Well,
term,
it's a way to.
What's that?
I'm sorry. It's so conspiracy theory. It was created as a way to make us not question anything.
Well, do you know who used it first? It was Alan Dulles used it when he was on the Warren Commission trying to explain away who shot JFK. And he said all those people who were pointing up to the grassy knoll there in Dallas, saying that, hey, shots came from right up there. And a lot of those people ended up dead. And Alan Dulles just said, they're just conspiracy theorists, wackos, people live in their basement and are paranoid.
So this is in the 1960s.
This was, right after the JFK assassination in 63, Alan Dulles, the first head of the CIA, went from the OSS Office of something or other to the CIA. Because of its context, now we're talking about he favors our undertakings, because of its context as a caption above the eye of providence, the pyramid, the all-seeing eye enclosed in a triangle and surrounded by a ray of light or a halo, it's intended to represent providence, God's intervention on the universe. No small deal. You talk about a goal, huh? As the eye watches over the workers. Now, here we go. This is why I'm saying it's a segue, Michael, onto your worker and farmer protests. So let me just get back into that, because he favors our undertakings because of its context as a caption above the eye of providence, the all-seeing eye enclosed in a triangle and surrounded by a ray of light or a halo. It's intended to represent providence, God's intervention in the universe, as the eye watches over the workers of mankind. Emphasis workers, like the whole thing. Workers, workers, workers. And that's why the Marxist economist, Professor Wolff, says it's going to have to be a workers' strike, revolution, a general strike that's just going to have to shut down capitalism and these globalists' goals. It's our ace in the hole, but it is going to take a mass movement, and mass movements aren't easy. Nobody said it was going to be easy. The only other thing that I would, maybe I'll wait on this. I think I'll wait because I've said a lot, and the next thing that goes into this guy named Michael Fagan, who in 1967 did an update on the Illuminati. That was Adam Weishaupt. He was it was the Illuminati was the plan to enslave humanity. It was written in 1776 by Weishaupt, an apostate Catholic priest financed by the House of Rothschild to form a one world government controlled by bankers, religious institutions that would foment wars everywhere. But yeah, it gets into the protocols of Zionism, which is gets into today's genocide in Palestine, and it gets real thick right about here. And I'd like to just wait on that for now, because I have said a lot about the WEF. But basically what it is before the WEF, you had the Illuminati, maneuvering behind the scenes. But 50 years ago, they decided, well, let's just come out in the open and call ourselves the World Economic Forum, and the same goals.
Well, everyone's got the word Illuminati on their tongue now, so it's kind of cat's out of the bag. Time for a new disguise. So.
That's it. That's it.
And then those COP28, COP26 meetings, that's the WF stuff, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So are we?
Yep. Rondo says.
That's
Yep. Rondo says that's a part of their sorcery. They have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it, for their magic to work.
Hocus pocus.
Yes. Thank you for all of your comments, Rondo. We are wrapping up because we've been on for 2 hours, and it's probably time to go.
Yeah, that was a good first stream with Stephen. That was.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate this opportunity. I like your show, and I feel really honored to be here. Thank you both very much.
We had a couple technical difficulties, but I think it worked out a bit smoothed out, right? So.
Yep. And we appreciate you being here. And to all of you at home, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Noteworthy Podcast. We definitely always appreciate when you chime in and join us. So we'll see you next Thursday, same time, same place. And I'm just peacing out.
Yep, check out Social Contract and Breaking Beyond the Arc. Hopefully we don't have to tell you guys the times by now. Check them out. So.
Right. Oh, yeah. So Beyond the Arc also has a new co-host. So check them out this Sunday so you can see their new co-host. He's really funny. He's been in our chats, and he makes me laugh with all his comments. His name is Mastermind Hour. Yeah. He's funny. He's super witty.
Looking forward to seeing that too. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Have a good night. See you next time. Peace.
Peace out.